Trigger warning, this episode contains themes about coming out, general bodily harm and injury, and past abuse.
It's called smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsut.
If I just pay enough attention, I can put these clues together.
Yes, and it feels like she wants that.
I do agree with like a whole PR mystery. It makes it fun. Hence why everyone loves the idea that Leah Michele can't read.
Oh my God, this is the best.
I'm gonna draw a line. I don't think she can read.
I don't think she can read either.
I think if she could read, she would have come out to be able to and said she could read.
Or there was a thing. Did you see it where she was like reading a
children's
book,
book,
and someone's like she memorized it.
No, she had an earpiece. They said there was a great
stupid, and I love it.
She chimed in on a TikTok about her being in Funny Girl.
Yes.
And someone responded
Yes,
saying,
I saw that.
Add TikTok to the list of rooms she can't read.
Oh, that is.
This is probably the meanest we've ever been.
We're not being mean. We are reporting things that we heard.
Facts.
I almost said facts.
We're drinking gin.
Yes.
That's
Also,
true.
we
So-
should say if you hear a clinking like this, that's our gin and tonic.
That's our gin and tonic.
Provided by Michael Donnelly when he went to London, and he's a good boy.
Michael Donnelly is a good boy.
He's a lovely man.
Speaking of just men and in general, I signed up for another dating app today.
What dating?
Which one?
Match.
Like-
Match.
Oh, like Match.com?
Do you have to pay for that?
So I didn't know. It was advertised to me on TikTok. It was like Match, and I go, oh, it's an app. It's not
Match.com.
Match.com. It's
Yes.
Match.
No, they've got more high tech.
I did it,
now.
and they have a free version, but you can only talk to one person for free.
Oh,
Everyone
what?
else, they give you one chance, and I had no idea. So I was like, oh, swipe right, and I was like, this guy's kind of cute, and I was like, wow, I'm getting all these likes. Why can't I see them? And I was
my
feeling
God.
great, and then I was like, oh, you little bastard. So I did. I'm paying for 1 month. I decided.
Okay.
And it was like discounted at like $37.
$37.
It's like the
That's a lot
whole.
of
It's the
money.
whole Match.com though. I think
Okay.
is what I
Is it-
get.
Are the people though that are on there far better than the free versions?
I mean, they're willing to invest.
Yes, they're willing to invest.
Because I
love-
signed up for eHarmony shamefully like 2 weeks before Keenan and I met.
I thought you were gonna say
shameful at
2 weeks
all.
ago, and I was like, you
no.
are.
Are you
married.
okay?
No, but
You were
the,
engaged.
the selection was bad. Like very, very, very bad.
Well,
I just also want to say, there's no shame in you signing up for eHarmony or
Oh,
Match.
yeah,
Like,
no.
no shame.
No, for me it was I'm so desperate and I'm
Gotcha.
gonna pay for this now. And then it was the shame of realizing that it was not worth the money and that
That
I
is
had
fair.
already spent the
You
money.
couldn't have known.
See, I don't feel shame. It's more like I'll never know until I try.
Yes.
Yeah,
But they're
I
trying to
remember
get the
this.
young people to pay money.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just trying to find a dead-eyed man, you know.
Yeah, I love a dead-eyed man. Nothing going on behind his eyes except for I pet this dog sometimes, and I go on picnics.
And I go, you know what? I don't
Alone.
want that. I don't want a picnic. I want a
don't want a
picnic once in
picnic?
a while. I don't
I
want.
love a picnic.
I love a picnic.
It depends on what's that? Is it warm? How warm is it?
Well, yeah, you're not
Speaking
going to
of-
go in the cold.
Speaking of being warm, we're doing only one bed today.
Oh, welcome to Femmes Reading Phil.
Welcome to Femmes Reading Filth. I'm Jess.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Sean.
Yay! We're doing only one bed.
Yeah, it's what's going on? There's only one bed.
There's only
Gotta
one
share it.
bed.
You open the door, dresser.
So you know how AO3 has you can make up tags.
Yes,
so
I love that.
I did write down some of the more fun ones, and I
Please
will
give
read
them
them
to
now.
us.
The two that I really liked were the runner up was oh my golly, there was only one bed,
Golly.
and then the winner for me was there's only one bed but nothing happens because there's been a murder.
Oh my God.
Can that be the next one?
That sold me on the story.
That's
I
incredible.
know. I need to actually go find it again and figure out what the story was.
Yeah. That's gonna be our new report back on us.
because there's
What
been
are
a
the
murder.
murders?
There's been a murder.
What a great tag. Oh my God. If you can't figure it out by now, the only one bed trope is literally it's a trope written for the screen or the book,
As
where
opposed to other tropes that are not.
yes.
It's written for the stage.
Yeah,
Only
very
the
different.
stage.
Very different.
Only the stage.
Where there is literally only one bed for the two characters to share, whether it for sexual tension or comedic effect.
And I would say the key to it is the fact that they are in bed together through circumstance is the reason that they get together or consummate the union or whatever the hell we're talking about.
Sean, what do you think of when you think of only one bed? Like, is there a specific example, or
I mean, the first one that comes to mind is a book series that we referenced before is ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses. One of the first times, I won't say who, but one of the first times that a couple engages with each other is in an inn where there's only one bed. And
I love a good inn bed.
It's such a good scene. I feel like the other one that's coming to mind is not romantic, but it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where they have to share.
Okay, so in looking this up, because I was like, oh, I should look up some like actual movie ones. That is one of the big ones that keeps coming up.
It's for comedic relief.
Yes, and I was specifically looking just for romantic stuff.
Yeah.
The only one I could find that I like knew and had seen and whatever was The Proposal.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
As well as No Holds Barred.
I don't know that one.
Which is the Hulk Hogan wrestling movie
that
they did on How Did This Get Made.
I have not listened to that episode.
One of my favorite podcasts, maybe one of Sean's favorite podcasts.
It's such a good podcast.
Starring Hulk Hogan. It's
Is that where Dookie comes from?
Yes, that's the Dookie line. That's the Dookie line. And then for books, the two I thought of were ACOTAR as well, and From Blood and Ash.
Yeah.
Which is another one of my favorite series. And then a lot of like fantasy books or like.
If they're on, because if they're on some kind of quest or something,
and they have to stop in an or a cave. There's only one cave bed.
Yeah,
one cave.
There's always you have to
huddle for warmth.
Well, and that relates to the other tag that comes up a lot for this on fan fiction, which is just generally the trope of forced proximity, which can be seen also with like they get stuck in an elevator or something like that, or they're locked in for some ungodly reason, like something that forces the characters to be near each other in a way that they hadn't been before.
If we're going with the cave, Hunger Games is another one where Katniss has to huddle with Peeta, yes, because he's dying, and they have to huddle for warmth.
When you said elevator, that reminded me of there's a book that was going around on TikTok for a while called The Wall of Winnipeg and Me.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
It's a football romance. It's a slow burn football romance. Don't laugh. I love a sports romance.
I know, but football
so much.
It's usually hockey that you've mentioned, and this is the first time I've heard of a football romance.
Yes. And I actually have a question for that because hockey fan fiction is big.
Yeah.
Do you? Because you read a lot of hockey romances.
I do.
Do you know anything about hockey?
I do.
Do you know anything about football? Like, does your knowledge of the sport affect your enjoyment of the story?
No, I understand. Well, in vague terms, I understand football. My family members are very big into football. And by that, I mean just my dad and my brother. My mom doesn't give a shit, like me. But no, I could never really get into it. It was, and it's weird because that's a lot of big guys crashing into each other, which is a big thing I like about hockey when they crash into each other and they get into fights. But it's a gentleman's sport. Hockey is.
It is
because no matter what happens on the ice, you shake hands afterwards.
That's fair. Yeah, I think for me, the only time I've ever encountered it is in fan fiction, and because I don't know any of the players or what they look like or anything like that, I have a hard time making the leap to reading stories. Yeah. But I did get some history of Only One Bed in fan fiction. So I found this lovely article on sci-fi.com called "The One Bed Fanfiction Trope Finds Popularity in Predictability, but which fanfic pair shared a bed first?" Based on what you might know about big fandoms in the like mid to late 70s, can you give me a guess as to who you think first shared a bed in modern fanfiction? Emily, raised your hand.
In the mid 70s?
Yeah, like mid to late 70s, which is about when modern fanfiction as we know it kind of started.
Cheers? Was that the 70s?
Oh, I would love that, but no.
No?
I think that was 80s.
No, you're right. That was 80s.
Get another one.
Oh, God. I don't know what was happening in the 70s.
Emily,
Go, Emily.
you raised your hand.
Is it Star Trek?
It's not Star Trek.
Oh,
it's not Star Trek.
I feel like an absolute fool.
Well, Star Trek will come up later, but actually the first one that they can find on record, which isn't to say that it's the first one ever. It's just the first one that was published because the internet didn't exist. So it was all literally published physically.
For sure.
Was Bunkies by L.A. Adolph, and it was a zine. It was in the zine Against the Sith, issue number 4.
Oh, so Star Wars.
Star Wars, 1979, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. It's a gen fic, meaning no sex. And
I'm kidding.
the one bed was played for laughs.
Okay.
So it was the other trope that we brought up a couple times where it's grumpy sunshine. And it was, well, Han and Luke probably have very different sleeping styles. And Han is probably really upset to have to share a bed with Luke.
Yeah.
And it was that.
I
was
wonder
the
how
first
many
ever one.
people read that and then immediately wrote a sexual version of it.
I was going to say, it sounds
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and so the first romantic one, Emily, what
Star Trek.
what pairing do you think?
Spock and the captain. James Kirk.
There you
Tiberius Kirk.
Good job.
Captain Kirk.
You got there.
Why did I have
William
to say the full
Shatner.
name?
So that was the first romantic one they could find, which was
That makes
published.
sense.
So the more general one was 1979. This one was 1987. So almost a decade later.
Yeah.
So the first romantic one was Soundings by David Alexander, The Naked Times, issue number 15.
Oh my god.
Published in 1987.
Naked Times.
So actually, The Naked Times
Newsies don't. So.
is one of the more prolific Star Trek zines.
Oh.
And it was a Kirk Spock story anthology / zine published by the Ponfar Press. So they did all sorts of Star Trek related zines, many of them fan fiction. And this zine actually ran 32 issues. The last one was published in 1994.
Oh my gosh.
So the dedication for this zine was respectfully dedicated to anyone who was ever loved in a different way.
Aww.
Yeah, so they were really focused on Kirk and Spock as a pairing and exploring like the friendship and the connection between these two, but also they banged.
But also Bone Zone, baby.
Yeah, and so that's some history of fanfic where Star Trek, Star Wars, and sharing a bed popped up in both of these pretty frequent. And considering that that was what I was going to say is. The fact that the platonic one was almost a decade before the romantic one, I think just speaks to how difficult it was to actually publish fan fiction back in the day.
Yeah.
Where at really early ones, it was taken a little more seriously because you had to go through a lot of effort.
Yes.
It wasn't like nowadays where you can just be horny
Pop it up there.
and
hit
throw
enter.
it out there
Yeah.
and everyone can read it.
Yeah.
You have to like send it to a printing press.
Yes, exactly.
That's called writing a book just nowadays.
That's true.
So
My fanfic, go to the printing press.
well, should I get into mine since
Yeah.
I
I want you to do it.
You want me to do it?
Do
Yes.
it.
All right. So, because Only One Bed is very tied, in my view, to fake dating, which we did last week, I had a few rules for myself.
Okay.
And it was made harder by the fact that this is yet again not a quote-unquote official tag on AO3. So I wasn't able to just plug it into AO3. So my rules were no fake dating, no fandom with relationships already built on the Only One Bed. So Akatar and Blood and Ash were out. The bed thing has to be the reason or one of the reasons that they ultimately do the sex. And
They do the sex.
no holidays. Because I feel like that is very frequently used
Oh.
as a way to get people together.
That was
Because
a bold
people are
rule to make for
traveling
yourself.
and-
Yeah, I feel like that's an easy
I
one.
wanted to get outside the box.
You
so,
did not make it easy for yourself.
No, I did not. No, I did not. Because I don't know how. I physically don't know how to make it easy on myself.
We should say that the tag on AO3 that is closest to Only One Bed.
Yeah, the tag on AO3 that's closest to Only One Bed is sharing a bed.
Oh.
But that has a lot of different ways
Yeah, for
that
sure.
isn't necessarily
Only one bed.
Sexual.
Only One Bed as I think of it.
Yes.
And
I'm
sexual.
surprised that's not a tag.
I am as well.
Yeah.
It shows up a lot and there are a bunch of sub tags basically, but no official tag that I could filter on, unfortunately.
Got it.
So the one that I picked is it's not the typical it's only one bed, but I stand by it. Is it the typical thing in that there is only one physical bed? No, there are several beds in this story. But It is my favorite variation on the trope, where there is only one bed that feels safe, that I can sleep in and that I feel comfortable in.
Okay.
Because someone is there.
Do I get to guess what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to guess now?
Or tell us, do you want her to tell us the title?
Yeah. Do you want the title?
Yes, I want the title.
The title is I've Been Having a Horrible Time Pulling Myself Together by DeadRatz.
Is that the cousin to Dead Mouse?
Yes.
Maybe, yes. I think that's
not how that works.
It's rats with a Z
Unless
on
it
the
was
end.
dead comma mouse.
You don't know how it's spelled.
Okay. No, that'll be the last name.
Do you have a guess now?
Can I get the hint of TV versus movie?
TV.
Oh, gosh. Okay. There's literally nothing, so I'm just going to throw one out there. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It was not.
I'd be very happy if it was.
Right?
So it is Stranger
roll.
Things.
Oh.
Stranger Things.
Okay, so is this going to be an Eddie and Steve?
Yes, it is.
Yay!
So, listener,
love
in
this.
case you're not deeply involved in fandom, Stranger Things, and obviously moving forward, Stranger Things spoilers
Yes.
for the latest season.
Yeah.
But Stranger Things before the latest season was a relatively small fanfic fandom
That makes
for
sense.
good
Really?
reason,
A lot of
because they were
children.
children.
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
children.
That's true.
But it really exploded with the character of Eddie Munson, who was introduced in this latest season.
I love Eddie Munson.
So, some notable stats on this one. It was finished September 16th, 2022.
Oh, wow.
So, it was finished
10 days?
ago. So, it is a very new fic. It has 15 chapters and 1,677 kudos, so it's fairly well loved. And it is a post-season 4 Fix-It AU.
Okay.
And the other tag of note is Hurt Comfort. Do we need translations for any of these?
I think hurt comfort. It sounds like I should know, but
So hurt yeah, Emily.
No, I think I understand what it is. So go ahead.
Yeah, Hurt Comfort is a fairly common tag, but it's basically indicates like a big dynamic in the story is someone being hurt and the other person comforting them.
okay, it's
like
like
that's
Grumpy
a,
Sunshine, like
yeah,
one-on-one.
but it's more angsty.
Okay.
Is it usually an emotional hurt comfort, or is it a physical, or can it be
It
both?
can be both. It can be
Okay.
both. But
So-
the main thing
okay.
is that it is a fundamental part of the story.
Gotcha.
This kind of misunderstanding, trying to comfort each other thing.
Got it.
So, Sean
Yes.
and Emily, but mainly Sean.
Got it.
Because you're our guest.
That's fair.
Obviously, you've seen, by your reaction, you've seen Stranger Things.
Yes, I have.
Do you have any pairings or characters that you like a lot?
I mean, I love Eddie. He's
Okay.
like my favorite character. I think he and Steve has been a pairing that's like intrigued me since it happened, because like I haven't read any of the fanfic.
Okay.
But TikTok has provided many a montage.
Right. Yes.
That has made it look as if they are together. But I mean, I think the like older generation of the kids are great. Like
Yeah.
Robin and Steve's relationship is fantastic.
I do love Robin. I love She's so good.
She's fantastic. But Eddie and Steve is a pairing that I'm very excited about.
Got it. So, just in case someone listening needs a refresher, give me like a sentence summarizing Eddie, Steve, Robin, and Max.
Oh, okay, yes. So Eddie is a senior who comes in the latest season. He's a D&D metalhead, outsider, heart of gold.
Yep.
Steve was like a popular jock, but then became like a proud father of 5
Yep.
when he just started hanging out with all the kids. And his best friend is Robin, who is a closeted lesbian and just a badass in general. She's awesome.
She's a senior in high school.
Yes, these are all
Yeah.
the seniors. These
But
are all.
Steve is graduated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Steve's like a year
He's
older or something.
Yeah.
And then Max is one of the youngsters. She was the younger sister of like an awful guy.
Billy.
He died. I don't really know what else. Max is just very cool.
She was new in the
Yeah, she was
last
new.
season.
Yeah.
She skateboards.
She skateboards. She was almost killed by Vecna.
Yes, and so
Spoilers.
so this fic picks up right at the end of season 4.
Okay,
So
okay.
where were those 4 at the end of season 4?
Oh my gosh.
If you remember, I can also chime in, obviously.
Please fill in gaps. Eddie was dead.
Yes, Eddie was dead in the Upside Down.
Yes, he was in the Upside Down. Steve and Robin were just kind of chilling. They were working at a charity auction at the end.
Yeah.
They were, and Robin was finally flirting with a woman, and Steve was proud.
Yes.
And Max was comatose, right? She was in the hospital because she is mostly taken over by Vecna.
Yeah. So a big element of season 4 was her kind of being one of the ones that Vecna was trying to kill.
Yes.
And that's why Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush blew up, because that was like her song
to get out
to
of
pull
it.
her back.
And it was
all
such a
this.
well done scene.
So
that scene of her running.
This is a fic that is very common, obviously, where they basically fix the fact that Eddie
Eddie is dead. Yes.
at the end of season 4. Which a lot of people that watch the show have theories that Eddie is in fact not dead, but it is heavily said that he is dead, so we're going to take that with us. So Sean, do you have any questions? Are you ready for me to get into this?
I am ready. Let's do this.
So, open on. Eddie has been left for dead in the Upside Down.
Got it.
Eddie wakes up. He's immediately aware that he's very injured, that he's still in the Upside Down. Everyone is gone. He's alone. And then he basically passes back out. He wakes up again to 11, Hopper, and Steve picking him up. And then we have a flashback to Steve talking to Hopper and basically saying, hey, Dustin has been absolutely inconsolable. He hasn't slept, eaten, or spoken for 5 days.
My son hasn't slept.
My son is emotionally devastated, which, listener, again, Dustin and Eddie Dustin, like, looked up to Eddie by a lot, and they were the ones that ultimately, like, fought together in the Upside Down, and then Dustin
was there
left, and Eddie stayed.
Yeah.
And it's heavily implied at the end of season 4 that Dustin is very fucked up by this.
Oh, yeah.
As he should be. And so Steve is basically like, hey, like, we at the very least need to get Eddie's body out of the Upside Down. And so he convinces Hopper and 11 to help him get Eddie out.
Okay.
And they get Eddie out. And all the kids are at the hospital where they've taken Eddie, crying with relief, but also guilt because they thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And they left him. And he goes into surgery, and the moment he goes under, Max wakes up.
Ooh.
And she is, like, recovering, and they're all really happy to see her, and she's, like, sitting up and eating Jell-O. And they break the news to her that at the end of season 4, like, the ground opens up, obviously, and there's, like, a fissure in the earth.
Yeah.
And they break the news to her that basically the entire trailer park was destroyed, and her mom died.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And that she doesn't have anywhere to go. And she's kind of...
Is that actually real? Did her mom die? Do we know?
The trailer park, I think, was sucked
Well,
into
because
the fissure.
her mom wasn't at the hospital with her. It was just
What's his name?
Lucas. Not Mike.
I think
Lucas,
it's very likely that we'll get to the next season and her
figure it out.
Max needs a fucking break.
Max
She really
needs
she
a
needs
break.
a hug.
She does.
And she needs a candy bar.
my
And she
God.
needs a break.
Oh my God.
Yes.
They all need a break.
They all do. It just keeps getting worse as they get older. So she's kind of dealing with that. The kids are dealing with that. And Steve, good father that he is, says, well, Max, you should just come stay with me.
Oh,
I love him.
Steve.
So much.
I am, like, as a side note, like, I can't remember, like, there's been so many TikToks about, like, the different attraction levels to the various men in Stranger Things, like the grown-ups, not the kids. And Steve being a proud father or a proud
makes him
supportive
hotter.
friend
Yeah.
of his, like, when he throws the, like, dish towel over
Yes.
his shoulder.
Yes.
Deeply attracted
Proud
to him
dad
for that.
Steve.
Proud dad.
Yeah.
I have such an attraction to that man. It's like problematic.
Do you know the actor has a band?
Yes.
It's
And
great.
do you know
It's
he's
really
also
good.
from Chicago?
He used to work at the
DMK bar.
right around the corner
Chicago
from
bar.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So Steve says, because this is another thing that's very common in these fanfics, is that basically in the show we never see Steve's parents.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's
They
true.
don't.
They're, like,
They're
not
never there.
around.
And so
I never thought about that.
Yeah, and so the fanfic writers have basically taken that, and it's very common in fics to be like either heavily imply that Steve's parents suck and are very absent, or give them there's some reason that they're not around. And so he says, like, I have the house to myself. My parents basically fucked off to Indianapolis and are there for the foreseeable future. Like, you can come live with me. And then we go to Eddie's POV. Eddie wakes up high as hell because he was just under anesthesia. And he's the thing he's thinking about is Hopper and 11 rescuing him. And then he ends up fixating on Steve. And he's having all these high, happy thoughts about how cute Steve's hair is. And an excerpt is, so as if Eddie created him with his mind, Steve Harrington walks right into his room. Hopper, Henderson, and Buckley follow behind him. He thinks of how to greet them as they walk in, trying to remember to use one of the safe names for Steve. Harrington, Stevie, King Steve, Dude. "Hey, baby," he says.
Wow.
Oh my God. So thus begins the inner monologues of these two boys, where Eddie is gay and out in this fic.
Okay.
But Steve is not.
For sure.
And so it is Eddie going, "I've had a crush on this boy for so long and I'm going to be cool about it." And it's Steve going, I'm not gay. I just think that Eddie is very pretty.
I mean,
he is.
And he is.
That hair.
And they both have such good hair.
Oh,
They
yeah.
both have excellent hair, but in very different ways.
Yes.
Very different ways.
Correct.
And also,
Correct.
yeah. So later, they're all very happy that Eddie's awake, and they say hi, and they talk, and the whole time, both of these boys are like, hi. And later, Steve and Robin get food, and he mentions the "hey baby" to her, and is wondering if Eddie is asking Robin, because she's gay, to be like, is Eddie for sure gay? And then like saying maybe he has like a crush, and he's very flustered. Steve is just very flustered all around. And Robin dismisses it and goes, "Steve, you always think everyone is flirting with you because you're just hot, and so I wouldn't put too much stock in this."
Accurate.
And then the next day, Steve visits Max and brings her ice cream. And after an hour of talking, Max stops him and goes, "I think you have a crush on Eddie."
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, "No, I don't. What do you mean?" And she goes, "Well, you've talked about him for about an hour straight, and you keep talking about how he called you baby." And they laugh about it, but then it's from Steve's perspective, so it's like him laughing about it outwardly, but also going, "No, I didn't. It's
Panicking
fine.
on the
It's
inside.
whatever. I don't really know."
As we all do.
Oh my
And so then after that, I'm going to read another excerpt because it's
Please
just
do.
too good. He heads up to Eddie's room, firm on his decision that he does not have a crush on Eddie Munson because he doesn't even like guys. And even if he did, why would it be Eddie? No way. Steve steps into Eddie's room. Eddie is laughing at something his uncle is saying. His eyes big and his laughter bright. He wheezes a bit and groans in pain, but he's happy and alive. His hair is pulled up into a messy bun on top of his head, and his ears are pierced. And Steve never knew that before. And he's messing with a guitar pick necklace dangling onto his bare chest, and he's fucking pretty.
Oh my God.
And Steve Harrington feels like he's been punched in the gut.
Oh my
Thirsty. Oh my God.
So thirsty, so conflicted. And so, like I mentioned, Eddie's uncle Wayne is there, and he says he got work somewhere near Chicago because the trailer park was destroyed. They don't have anything. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Well, Eddie, you should come with me. I can get you work there."
Uh-oh.
Steve overhears this, panics, but doesn't know why. Tells him, "So I don't know why I'm freaked out about this, but Eddie shouldn't leave." And when his uncle leaves, Steve is still there, and he says, "Eddie, you should move in with me. You should stay with me."
Oh my God.
And Eddie says, "Well, why?" And Steve says, "Well, I think that you will need friends that know what happened around that you can talk to about the trauma, the capital T trauma that we all went through." And all the next day, we're on his monologue, his inner monologue now, and he's thinking about the reasons that is a bad idea, that he shouldn't move in with his uncle, and
not the cute hot boy.
not the cute hot boy.
I will say, in the world of the show, he absolutely should move to Chicago because he's wanted for murder.
Oh, yeah, that too.
A murder he did not commit.
Is it worth noting, too, because Eddie was held back a few times, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
his whole thing is like,
he
this is
is
finally my year.
He's older than Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like 20.
Yeah.
I don't know how much older he is. Well, I think
because he was held back
Steve is
3 times.
So Steve
he's
is 20.
21.
So he's 2 years
And
older
Steve
than
is
Steve.
19.
Yeah.
So he's 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do talk about that in the fic. Basically, since Hopper's the one that gets him out and Hopper is the chief of police, Hopper's like, "I'll make this go away." And then
Okay. I accept that.
He's got friends in high places.
Yeah. And then Steve and him are talking about high school, and Steve goes, "I think that because the high school is a shelter now, they're probably just going to give us all diplomas." And Eddie goes, "Yeah." Nailed it. And so basically the next day, Eddie's thinking about ruminating on, okay, this is not the right decision. I should not move in with him. I should not move in with him. And then Steve walks in and he sees his beautiful face and he says, "I'll move in with you." And he realizes that he wants to see Steve every day, and this is the easiest way to do it. But he pushes those thoughts down also because Steve is straight. Mm-hmm. So why would Steve want him? Because Steve is straight, and he shouldn't put this on his friend.
I mean, that's fair. He doesn't know.
So
He doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know. So
He's gonna know.
a lot of pining, a lot of slow burn, a lot of gay thoughts, a lot of friendship. And many other things, I want to note, many other things are happening in this fic as well. There's a whole thing about Max and her recovery.
Oh, God.
There's a thing about secret powers that people got from the Upside Down.
Okay.
Robin is going through some realizations about her relationships. But I'm not going to talk about any of that because we're here to talk
focusing on
about
the sexy times.
We're here to talk about bed stuff.
And because there's only one bed.
There's only fucking
No,
one
there's
bed.
a lot of
One
beds.
goddamn
We
bed.
established there's a lot of beds.
And even though this again, it's not the typical one, but I picked it because there's only one bed that feels safe, and I like that.
I get that.
And the bed is very central to this relationship
Okay.
unfolding.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I have titled my notes Bed Thing 1, Bed Thing 2, etc. Bed Thing 1. Steve is hanging out with Eddie in the hospital, and he says he has to go because it's been several hours, and he notices that Eddie is visibly disappointed in this, and Steve has a thought that he wants to crawl into bed with him and take a nap rather than leave, but he squashes that down because he's straight. Bed Thing 2, Steve pulls an all-nighter and meticulously puts together a bedroom for Eddie in his house. He has the kids help salvage stuff from the trailer, and he organizes all the drawers, and he buys him new t-shirts because a lot of stuff caught on fire, and he like puts everything in its place, including Eddie's gay porn, question mark.
Oh, gotta save it. Gotta save it.
Yep. And then the next time so then when Eddie goes to Steve's house and sees the room, it makes his heart flutter that Steve took such care setting up a nice bedroom for
I know
him.
that it's going to get to sexy time, but this is still just Steve being an incredible father.
It's Steve being the excellent facilitator that he is.
Such a good dad.
A good daddy, more
a good
like.
daddy.
A good
Well,
daddy.
Oh no. Oh no.
The gin is kicking in.
Steve is a daddy.
Bed Thing 3. That very same night, the first night that Eddie is there, there's a sleepover at Steve's, and all the kids come.
Sleepover.
Because they want to hang out with Eddie, and all the kids come, and everyone watches movies, and they order pizza, and they're up very, very late, as you do with sleepovers. Robin crashes in Steve's room. Eddie, the entire night, is very nervous about being able to go to sleep because he's been having horrible nightmares. And at the hospital, they gave him drugs to help with the sleep, and he does not have those anymore. And so he's really nervous about that. But then he does go to sleep in his new room, but he has horrible nightmares. And guess what happens? So
I think I know what happened.
So he knocks on Steve's door at like 4 a.m. looking terrified. And Steve doesn't even say anything. He's just like, come on. Oh. And so Eddie crawls into bed with Steve and Robin. And so Robin is in between them.
Why is Robin in the bed? Oh,
Because
sleepover.
she crashed in his bed.
Sleepover.
Got it.
But then
Sleepover.
But then Steve wakes up. Robin is gone.
Oh my god.
Because she had to work at the video store.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course.
Not something
yes.
nefarious.
Yes.
Just she had to work.
She had to work. She had to go to work.
This is the tag of no sexy time because there was a murder.
Steve wakes up. Robin is gone. And guess who's snuggling with him and has a boner?
Hopper. Oh no, it's
definitely Eddie.
Eddie.
Steve.
He just came in the middle of the night.
So Eddie like does the thing where Steve tries to pull away, but asleep Eddie like mumbles and pulls him closer and kind of does like a little bit of a grind. And Steve doesn't want to leave because he likes Eddie and he's realizing that he's gay and he wants to be close to him. And then Eddie wakes up and they're looking into each other's eyes.
Oh my god.
And they say each other's names. And then Eddie says Steve's name again, like Steve. And Steve nods. And then Eddie's hand very, very slowly slides down Steve's chest to his crotch. And the whole time Steve is like, there's no way this is happening. I'm dreaming. This is everything I ever wanted.
Oh my god.
I might be gay.
God.
Oh my god. And then Eddie rolls over and Steve is terrified that he's been rejected. And he's like, he freaks out for a minute. But it's just so Eddie can take off all of his clothes. And basically, Eddie gives Steve a hand job, and it's all very fraught because Steve's like, "This isn't happening. This is happening. This is happening. Oh my god, this is happening." And then Eddie jacks himself off because he is a gentleman who isn't afraid to put in the work.
Did you write that down?
With him. Yes, of course I did.
Because he's a gentleman.
Who's not afraid to put in the work.
But then we have the angst of the story because they both come. And then they have that horrible...
That's where the angst comes
Well, you know, when you post-nut clarity.
Oh my God.
Well, because Eddie freaks out because he's like, either Steve is not gay and I just gave him a hand job.
Yeah.
Or he's very newly out and this was a lot and I didn't ask
a lot
anything.
of vulnerability.
Yeah, he was like, I moved really fast just now and I've been actively trying to tamp down my feelings for this man for many years. And oh my God. And so they basically both freak out and they decide not to do it again. It was one of the most infuriating conversations I've ever read because it's the thing where both characters are like misconstruing the other one.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, they're doing the new girl where it's like, I consent. Do you consent to me? But they're misunderstanding each other.
Yeah.
The fact that they want each other to mean they want to take it slow.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah, the I want to take it slow is being translated by both of them as you don't care about me. Okay, it's fine.
I hate that
We
so
won't
much.
do this again. Bad thing number 4. This still, though, even though they've decided not to fool around again, starts a pattern of Eddie crawling into bed with Steve late at night when the nightmares come. For comfort. And so they don't fool around because they both have conflicting gay feelings. But it starts a pattern of them regularly sharing a bed because it's the only place.
Do they snuggle or
they
not?
snuggle?
Oh, God,
it's the only place where Eddie feels safe.
Okay.
And then bed thing number 5.
Bed thing.
Steve misses Eddie and goes into his room late at night, feeling guilty though because he doesn't have the excuse of nightmares. So he's like, "Oh my God, like this is, I'm crossing a line. Oh my God," and he's convinced that Eddie doesn't feel the same way for him, but he feels a great need for him. And then he chickens out like halfway to the bed, and he turns around to leave, and he starts to cry.
Wait, Steve does or
Steve
Eddie
does.
does? Okay.
Steve does because he's newly realizing his feelings for Eddie, and he's feeling very conflicted about it, and he just wants him to like
Love
make
him.
out with him and love him, but he feels a lot of stuff. And Eddie hears him and wakes up and just quietly pulls him into bed and kisses his forehead.
Aww.
And Steve, we're still on Steve's inner monologue, thinks, I quote, "He's just being friendly."
Steve, you damn moron.
Oh my
you.
God.
And but then Steve like confesses like that he really wants Eddie, that he needs him, and he feels bad because they said they wouldn't do it, but he can't help himself, and he really wants him. And so they start making out, and Steve is still feeling kind of emotional, and so Eddie, to make him laugh, like licks his whole face.
That's
See,
very
that's not
cute.
that's not platonic.
No, it's not.
Trust me.
It's
not. Forehead kisses and face licking, not platonic.
platonic.
Crown of the head kisses, platonic.
Totally platonic, yeah.
Fine.
Forehead, it's on.
And so they're making out, and then Eddie starts to kind of move to go down on Steve. But in that, he like holds Steve's hands and kind of pins them to the mattress.
Okay.
And Steve freaks out. Because trauma, because he needs to be ready to fight a Demogorgon at any
He got
point.
pinned to the wall.
And he got
he
pinned.
did, yeah.
And he has a oh my God,
trauma
and
reaction.
freaks out. And they do it again where Steve is like, "No, I don't want to stop. I don't hold me down."
Communicate.
And Eddie goes, no, that was on me. You were really like upset when you came in here. I shouldn't have done this. This was too far.
I'm so upset.
I'm so sorry. And Steve goes, "No, but I wanted to. Like, it's okay. I'm so sorry that I freaked out. I couldn't help it." And Eddie's like, "No, I'm sorry because you were really, and I took advantage of you as my friend."
Keep making out.
Stop apologizing and being so Midwestern.
So they go to bed with Steve being absolutely heartbroken.
Oh my
but they,
God.
they cuddle up and they go to sleep. And Eddie says, "Listen, like, let's just go to sleep and we'll talk about it in the morning."
Okay, good.
Spoiler alert, they do not in fact talk about it in the morning.
Men.
Because Eddie goes down on Steve the moment they're both awake.
Yeah. Oh.
And then Eddie, so he goes down on Steve. Steve comes, obviously, because Eddie's a gentleman. Eddie is a gentleman. And then Eddie does a thing that I first learned about from fan fiction, probably because I don't have a penis, but they do intercrural sex.
What is that?
Where you fuck somebody's thighs.
Oh, I didn't know there was a name for that.
I had no idea what the name for it was.
Yeah. And apparently, Emily, I Googled it. It was really popular in ancient Greek times. And there's
Sounds
like
about right.
vases depicting people fucking each other's
Other's thighs.
thighs.
I mean, boy on man was very popular back in those
I know.
days.
What was it? Intercural?
Intercural. Intercrural. So it's not a fun thing to say. Intercrural. My Midwesternness cannot handle that word.
Intercrural.
Intercrural. So they do that, but then of course Hopper arrives and they're like shit, and then, so they don't have a chance to talk about anything.
Oh God.
So then they've been hooking up for a little while, and like there's 3 or 4 more sex scenes, but they don't have anything to do with beds, and this is bed thing 6.
Got it.
They get in a fight because they keep hooking up and saying it doesn't mean anything, but Eddie, as he's wont to do, keeps using pet names for Steve. He keeps saying baby, he keeps saying sweetheart, and Steve keeps saying please don't do that because it's too overwhelming for him, because he's like, it doesn't mean anything. And so he says that mid-sex, and then he uses a pet name for Eddie, and Eddie goes, well, that's not fair, and like gets mad at him and goes to storm out.
There's too much drama.
They start fighting, and Eddie is storming out, and Steve follows and confesses that he is in love with Eddie. And he goes, it's just overwhelming because I have feelings for you and I've been in love with you for a really long time. But every time you call me baby, I think about that, and I think about how you don't feel the same way about me. And Eddie goes, wait, and then Steve realizes that he said that downstairs where all the kids were because they had come over to watch a movie. And he gets super embarrassed and leaves.
But Eddie didn't get to see what he was
Eddie
going
didn't
to
get to
see.
see. And so Steve like drives around and does the I have so many feelings thing that guys do where they drive around. And he comes back really late at night, crawls into bed with Eddie and says, I'm so sorry. And he wakes up to Eddie kissing him all over his face. And Steve initially apologizes about yesterday and says to forget about everything that he said. But he can't pretend to be casual anymore. And now Eddie knows why. And Eddie says that he loves him too, and has loved him since he first saw him in the hallway when they were 15, and a bully had tripped Eddie, and Steve helped him up.
Aww.
And they confess their love, and they realize they're idiots and have basically been in a relationship this whole time, and they keep sharing a bed.
Yeah.
The end.
And they keep sharing a bed.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So that's the end. That's the end of the fic.
Wow.
But it's so...
Wow.
The bed is so important.
Yeah.
No, I think that definitely counts.
Thank
based
you.
on what you said. I'm so frustrated by the amount of conflict in that kind of story pisses me off so much. Like, I think it's an example of like the that fanfic we talked about Arcane, where it's like the second there's sexy times, it's like we have to create drama, so it's going to be through miscommunication or something like that. It just kept happening.
Which is frustrating
so much
as
of
a
it.
reader.
It was so much of it, because especially you were switching between their POVs.
Oh my God.
So it was Steve's POV of...
He just doesn't like me like that.
He doesn't like me like that. It's fine. And
Yeah.
Eddie's POV of like, well, he's not gay. Like, it's fine.
Which
I
is
don't want to
really
push him.
cute at the beginning, but
But
after
it gets
you,
tiring.
Yes,
It gets
especially after you
old.
licked each other's faces.
Non-platonically.
That's not platonic.
Platonically.
Like, even if he's not in love with you, he likes you.
Yeah.
He licked your face.
Yeah.
He catted.
Yeah. Or dog. Whatever.
Or actually a dog is
more dog.
more of a licker
Than a cat.
than a cat.
But yeah,
Oh, boy.
I think it was adorable, the moments where they were like with each other. And
Yeah.
I love I think it counts that it's like he only felt safe when he was with someone.
Yeah.
And he didn't choose Max. So
Yeah.
like, that's good.
And he didn't choose Max.
Like to be with someone else in a bed,
Yes,
platonically.
Yeah.
But I just think there was one too many miscommunications.
Yeah.
For my brain.
Emily.
Buckle up.
I'm ready.
Buckle up. So much like Jessica, I also had a rule for myself, which was I wanted it to be a physical bed.
Okay.
I didn't want... Like I said earlier, a lot of
cave.
fantasy. Yeah,
A cave
lot
or
of
an
caves.
elevator or
I read a
something.
lot of cave romances.
For sure.
You know?
Who wouldn't?
So it took me a while to find one. And I thought about doing From Blood and Ash, and I thought about doing ACOTAR, but I love them so much, and I want like you to read them. Like I know you've read ACOTAR. I want you to read From Blood and Ash.
Okay.
And I don't want to ruin it for you.
Okay.
So I won't do that, but I highly recommend that. I should also say, in true Emily fashion, I read another book and wasn't satisfied with it because that one was called, I believe, Lockbox, and it's about two people that get locked in a police evidence room for a weekend.
Oh, wow.
But their only one bed is a tuft of carpet. So I said, well, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
So I moved on to Make It Sweet by Kristen Callihan. It has 369 pages. It came out February 23rd, 2021. It is a contemporary romance, and it is a dual point of view, so you hear from both of them.
I love a dual point of view.
I do too. And I will also say, I told my therapist about this book because it made me feel.
Okay.
And I usually don't like to read books that make me feel.
I get that.
It's why I read a lot of mafia romances. I don't care about them.
I'm not connected to them.
No, I did. I was like moved by this book at points. I was like, wow. I honestly think she's a fantastic writer, though. And I will now look for more books by her because I really enjoyed it. But the two main characters are Emma Marone and Lucian Osmond.
Those are actually great names.
Yeah, and
they are.
And I will say Lucian is of French descent, so I don't know if it's like Lucien. Lucian. He also goes by Luke, and he also goes by Oz because his last name is Osmond.
Yeah, those are great.
Let me read the description for Emma for you, and I want you to tell me if it reminds you of anyone in real life.
Okay.
She's an actress on a fantasy series called Dark Castle. She gets killed off. She is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, big doe-eyed.
Moira Rose.
No.
Keep going.
Amazing. This was her first big thing. They filmed in Iceland. She was famous because in the first season of this show, she had to show her boobs.
I have no idea.
Big fantasy series.
I have no idea.
Jessica, does this ring any bells to you?
Game
Amelia
of Thrones?
Clark.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would have gotten there.
So I don't know if this is like I don't know how to look up. Is this based off of this? I don't know if that's
might
even
be.
But that does sound
written
like
anywhere.
it, yeah.
It's not. As I was reading, I go, "This is Amelia Clark."
Yeah. I got to Game of Thrones, and I probably would have gotten to Amelia Clark.
I wonder
after
if
that.
it was a fanfic originally.
I do too.
Like a Game of Thrones AU.
If anyone knows, let me know. I didn't look it up because I just didn't.
What's the author's name?
Kristen Callihan?
Okay, I'm looking it up.
Yeah. And the book is called Make It Sweet.
Okay.
So she is an actress on Dark Castle. She gets killed. She literally gets the axe. She gets her head chopped off. And throughout the book, everyone is like, "Oh, we can't wait for the next season," because it was in the season finale, so people don't know yet. So everyone keeps saying, "We can't wait for the next season. You're the reason we all watch the show." She is very upset. She gets killed off. She goes home to the place that she's staying in Iceland, where they're all filming, and finds her big football player boyfriend cheating on her with a 19-year-old.
Oh my god.
So she finishes filming the season and talks to her grandma and is like, "I need to just get away for a while. I need to just rest and relax." She goes, "Hey, my friend Amelie has an estate called Rosemont in Monterey, California. It's, Monterey. Around that, Montecito, California. And it's a huge estate. It's not exactly a bed and breakfast, but it has all these little guest houses, and it's in the Spanish style.
Nice.
And it's known as a place to like recoup.
Okay.
So she heads there, and that's where she meets Lucian Osmond. Lucian, as Emma calls him, is an ex-hockey player.
It all makes sense.
Thought you'd like that one. Who was one of the biggest hockey players, most famous. He had all these ads. He was engaged. He got hit one too many times. And the actual prologue starts with him lacing up, and he's in a game, and then he gets hit, and it's like blackout. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And we find out that he had to leave. He like quit hockey because he has concussion syndrome.
Jeez.
He does talk about the side effects that he has, and I don't know if it's of concussion syndrome in general or if he has a specific kind. I again didn't look it up because I forgot.
Fine.
But he went and started living with his grandmother, Amelie, the French lady who owns Rosemont.
Okay.
So we start out with the grandma, and the grandma Amelie is described as a beautiful French woman in her 70s who is always dressed to the nines. Like I kind of imagine her as like a Coco Chanel type person, but she's very fashionable.
Okay.
Very warm, very welcoming, and lovely. She tells Lucian, who is helping her fix up the estate, to pick up this girl Emma from the airport because she has to fly in to Santa Barbara, not Montecito, because there's a strike and it's an hour away.
Absolutely.
So he goes and picks her up, and at
Forced
first
proximity number
one. Oh, I should also say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 sexy scenes in this book. They go to pick her up, and he has no idea that it's Emma Marone, who is a famous actress. Once he lays eyes on her, he's like, "Oh my God, I've seen your boobs." Like in his head. He's like,
so
oh my God.
far reads as like a classic Hallmark film of like big famous person goes to small town.
But they're both famous.
That's true. That's true.
She has no idea who he is. She thinks he's a fan. And she's like, no pictures. And he's like, no. Okay. And he's very like grumpy and angry. He's like, I'm here to pick you up. He is described as very tall, olive complexion. You're fine. Olive complexion, dark hair, very broad shouldered, large hands. There is instant chemistry. They are both immediately attracted to each other. Nice. And it's a dual point of view. So we hear from both of them that they're both like, oh my God. On the drive up, we see from Lucian's point of view that he starts to get a migraine. Aww. And this is one of the big things that a recurring theme that comes back again because of his concussion syndrome. And he is like, oh my God, in his inner monologue, he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, we still have at least 30 minutes. I feel so bad. Like, what am I going to do? And then Emma all of a sudden is like, hey, can you pull over? I'm starting to get a little car sick. Pulls over. She like takes a picture outside. She's like, you know what would help if I actually drove? Because I am feeling car sick and like that will, you know, when I drive, blah, blah. Help. He's like, oh, thank God. So he ends up falling asleep. And in her point of view, she's like, that dumbass didn't realize I knew he was getting a migraine. And so I was like, oh, they're attuned to each other already.
Cute.
So they get there and she meets Amelie and Sal, who is the gardener's son, but also has been there since he was a little kid. He like basically grew up with Lucian. I should also mention Lucian ended up growing up at Rosemont. His parents died when he was like 14.
Oh, okay.
And he introduces himself as Amelie's stylist. And he's
Sal
very fashionable. Sal does. I think his full name is Salvador.
Okay.
Very fashionable. He shows up wearing like a fuchsia top, jeans, and lipstick. And Emma is instantly like, I love you. Yeah. So they all have coffee and pastries together. They wheel out this humongous rolling cart of just French patisserie and a dream. And Luke had like gone away because he's like, I don't want to talk to people.
And he has a migraine.
Yes, but we do find out the migraine does subside, and we do find out from Luke's point of view, he's like, clearly Amelie, who he calls Mammy, that she's gonna meddle. And she is going to end up trying to get these two together because his fiance left him when he stopped playing hockey. Aww. So she invites him to coffee. He can't say no because it's his grandma. And he starts to become entranced with Emma eating these patisserie. And we find out that he actually has a hidden talent and that he is the cook/baker of Rosemont.
Cool.
This
He's a baker.
large ex-hockey player knows his way
bakes
around the kitchen, but he doesn't tell her that because he's a little embarrassed because, you know, he's like, whoa, no,
Men don't bake.
Men don't bake. But she is like moaning over how good these patisserie are. Whatever.
These
patisseries. And he's like, I gotta go. So he gets up and walks away. They kind of circumvent each other until one night she is out on her terrace and over the pool. And she sees him walk to the pool. And she's kind of in the shadows. And she sees him test the waters and then undress completely while Edith Piaf is playing in the background.
What?
Yes. Okay. And he does some naked swimming laps.
As we do.
The midnight swim. And I underline this, we see the goods. So once he gets out of the pool, he like faces her, but he doesn't let on that he sees her or anything. She has no idea that he knows that she's there. And she sees like everything and she goes, I went weak in the knees. It's so beautiful.
I would never swim naked in a place where I knew that my grandmother could walk out and see me swimming in the pool.
I'm sure also though he knew that like she'd be asleep.
Yeah. It just feels like a bold move.
Mm-hmm. So then he invites her on a hike just like 10 minutes away from where they live, and they start to get to know each other. And we find out about her past, that she wanted to be famous to get away from her abusive father because she thought this would be a better life. He finally tells her more about his hockey accident, that he is a hockey player, and about his concussion syndrome, that he is prone to anger outbursts, that migraines, things like that. And so a lot of his inner monologue is like, this is the kind of girl that deserves the world, and like I clearly cannot give it to her because I am broken. Like that's a big theme of the whole book, is that they both feel broken. That he feels broken because he doesn't have hockey anymore, and that she's like, well, this was the role that I had. This was like my starring role. I don't know what to do now. I don't have movie offers like the other people do. And so that started really getting to me because I was like, everyone can feel broken, you know, like I was like, wow. And I ended up highlighting like 3 things in this book.
I'm ready.
The first one was about when she ate some of the food, and she still at this point has no idea that he is the cook.
Yeah.
And she says, someone put all their skill and care into something that wasn't meant to last, but it was to be enjoyed in the moment. And in return, I finally felt cared for.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I
That's
like food
really
too.
lovely.
And then there's another part where I should say, let me Tarantino this. Before she finds out that he is like prone to getting really angry, he gets really angry with her, and she kind of holds her own. And at one point, he like lifts his hand to like get his hair out of his face, but she flinches.
For sure.
Which we find out later is because her dad was abusive.
father.
So that's like a whole the whole play of like men and women in society and with each other. And at one point he gives her a compliment, and she says, being a woman, I've been taught early on not to feel comfortable with praise, which is really a mind fuck because we're also taught to yearn for praise. And my relationship to like men in power is blah, 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 blah. So I just liked that a lot.
Absolutely.
So then they start to like really like each other, and then his cousins show up at the estate. And they start to get closer. They have a sexy pool swim where I called this one exhibition swim / nipping out at the pool.
Nipping out?
Yep, they're alone.
Their nips are out.
They're alone in the pool, and he pulls down her bathing suit top, and he does some breast play with her. Also, I will say Kristen Callihan is big into breast play.
Great.
Which I was like, you know what? You never read a lot of this. I'm happy about this.
Yeah.
She ends up learning that he is the cook. She is like, how could you not tell me? I feel like an idiot because I've been going on and on about how great the cook.
Why would you feel like an idiot?
Because she's been going on and on about how great the cooking is.
I would be like, I'm so glad you know.
So to make it better, she's like, you got to teach me how to cook. Which then we learn from him. He's like, this woman is a menace in the kitchen. She cannot cook to save her life. Blah, 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 blah.
Do we get one of those, like, let me show you how to stir the pot? Yeah. Where he, like, goes around the back?
There is another quote, though, of her being like, I could watch him in the kitchen all day. Like, kneading dough is the sexiest thing, da-da-da. And I was like, you know what? I bet it is. I bet it is sexy watching a hockey player knead dough.
Oh, yeah.
So then we learn that she has been invited to a wedding in Malibu, which is sorry, I don't know the layout of California. I'm assuming it's like an hour away drive.
I have no idea. It's close to LA.
It's far enough that she has to drive and stay overnight.
Okay.
It's one of her co-stars is getting married, and she wants to go because she's now off the show. She wants to see all these people. But this is going to be her first time seeing them since she was literally killed off the show.
That's hard.
And so she asks Luke to go with her. And they clearly have an attraction to each other. They've definitely said it, but there's something holding them back.
Well, they've already had the nipple play.
They've had the nipple play, but they've never said anything. They've like never done anything else. Emma is like, I'm into this. Luke's like, I'm broken. No. So they go to Malibu, and what do you think happens?
There's one bed.
There's only one bed.
Oh my God.
There's only one bed. By the way, I guess this is part of a series. They're all standalones, but the people that are getting married, they have a book.
They have their own book. Okay.
Delilah is the bride of this wedding. The cake that she has ordered for her wedding, which is a small wedding of 40 people, has gotten into a car crash on the way there.
Who's gonna make the
Lucian
cake?
has been like, I can make your cake, and Emma's like, he's serious. So
Yeah.
he makes the cake. He saves the day. They have a very romantic time at the wedding, and she's like, I really like you. I didn't want to invite anyone else because I don't feel, not that she doesn't feel safe with these people, but she's like, I don't know my place anymore. This is my family, and blah 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 blah. He's like, you're too good for me. I'm broken. I have nothing to offer you, blah, 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 blah. So the night ends. They had a really nice time, but Emma's still feeling kind of bummed. They thought there was going to be 2 beds, so they only packed like skivvies and T-shirts. Oh my God. And then Lucian comes out of the bathroom. He's wearing full jeans and a T-shirt. And Emma's like, take off your jeans. Like, we can do this. It's a king-size bed. We're fine. And because he's being so ridiculous about it, she starts laughing. Then he finally takes off his jeans. They're both on like the very ends of the bed. Yeah. And they both just start giggling. Yeah. Like turning into a laugh attack, which then turns into a pillow fight, which then turns into tickling because they're just like they're drunk and they're giddy and blah, blah, blah. And then finally he ends up pinning her to the bed because she was tickling him, and they give in to their lust. And this one I call thighs and hands in one bed because he was not expecting to have sex. Neither was she. They did not become prepared with condoms. So they said they only want to do hand stuff.
For sure.
So hands go everywhere. There's a whole scene. There's a whole part, I should say, about him. Her riding his thigh. He's very into dirty talk. A lot of thigh
play in these.
Yes, he's very into dirty talk. She's very into it, and they make out like crazy. So The next day comes. That was like the big one bed scene. That's like the turning point.
Okay.
The next day comes and she's like, oh my God, like that was it. And he starts to like build his walls back up. She's like, fuck. They start to drive back.
Because he's broken.
They start to drive back. They get home and he immediately is like running to his room. She's following him being like, bitch, what are you doing?
Seriously.
Turns out he's getting another migraine.
Oh,
So he's like, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to see me like this. And she's like, let me help you. Call this one migraine cure, where she goes down on him while he has a migraine.
No, that'll help.
Question, do either of you ever get migraines?
No.
I don't think so. No, I get bad headaches, but I don't think it's a migraine.
Okay, because she's like, I've gotten migraines before. Orgasms help. So
I have
Yeah?
enlisted Keenan to help me with a headache by having him give me an orgasm.
Headaches I've heard.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it would be similar for a migraine.
But it's just so much more intense.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. And I know like,
Hey, if anyone out there has migraines
if anyone out there's migraines and knows how to get rid of them with a...
or wants to
if they-
experiment, give this a try, see if it helps.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know. So that happens, and Mammy ends up catching them.
Oh, okay.
Not badly, and she's like fine with it because
Well, I'm
this
sure
is what
she's
she
like,
wanted.
"Ooh."
This is what she wanted the whole time. But they are both super embarrassed, and then of course Lucian closes off even more, and he's like, "No, this was just casual fun." And Emma's
Lucian.
like, "No, it's not for me. So fuck you. I'm leaving."
Yeah,
so she leaves Rosemont. She's like, "I'm gonna go to LA. I'm gonna find a new place to live."
Oh my
Because she
God.
was only there for the summer. So she's gonna, I'm gonna find a new place to live. Lucian's like, "Fuck." So him and Sal go down to LA because he needs someone to help him drive.
Yeah, for sure.
Go down to LA. And they find her staying at a hotel in a bungalow. And he makes a big profession of love. And I call that one the bungalow bang, where they finally bang.
Great.
And they bang and they bang and they bang. Like a lot, like so much.
Yeah.
I said Luke follows her and they have all the sex.
Great.
She ends up tricking him into trying skating again because he hasn't skated since he quit hockey.
Aw.
And there's a big charity event that he wants to go to. So she kind of helps him like regain some of his former self. This leads to him getting an offer to come back on the team,
Okay.
which is not a good thing because
No.
if he gets one more hit, he could
die.
He could die. But he takes it.
But
Because he's like, this is who I am. And
my
like, I
God.
can finally be full. And she's like, no, you're full with me.
Men
like,
are
this
so
is fine.
dumb.
So
you're a baker. Open a bakery.
you're a baker. So yes. And she keeps being like, you do this.
You're
do
really
this.
good at this.
There's a whole other subplot, or not subplot, but there's more about his background, about his family, who he learned to cook from and bake from, which was his great-grandfather, Mammy's father. And he ended up getting, he got hit really hard in the head and like deteriorated within years. So the fact that he decides to try and go back and play hockey is a big point of contention with his whole family.
Okay.
And his family is like, no, we're not talking to you now. And Emma's like, I don't approve of this, but I love you, and da-da-da-da. So you got to read the rest to figure out what happened.
Oh my God.
I will say there is another sex scene, too, that I didn't mention where he uses his baking skills on her body.
What?
Does he rub flour?
Like cream, like
I'm just
like
picturing
a creme,
him.
creme pat.
I'm just picturing him covering her with sugar.
I was picturing flour.
Ready to go in the oven.
Just grains everywhere.
Or just like frosting her very slowly.
Well, frosting. He eats frosting on her body.
Okay, well that's different. I wasn't
That's not-
picturing. No, I wasn't.
He makes the
picturing-
frosting himself.
I
He
was
doesn't get it
picturing
from a can.
him literally just putting frosting on her.
I'm gonna paint your body.
Yes, exactly. I'm making art.
But it just like was very. There's a lot of lovely language about food and about how that's a love language for him.
Yeah.
Making her food and like kind of fattening her up in a way because he's like, I love having you eat my food.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
His specialty is patisserie. So it really like I guess there's just a lot. It's kind of a slow burn in the way that it took a while to get to the only one bed part, but I was very entertained. And again, I try not to read a lot of books that make me feel. So the fact that I was like, the whole time I was like, ooh, you know, there's only a handful of books that will make me, I will read a scene and then I'll close it and have to like get up and be like, oh my God,
like,
I'm so
process
excited.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm so excited and I'm so happy that I do a lap.
Yeah.
Like I walk into the kitchen, I like eat something even though I'm not hungry, and then I walk out because I'm like, I have to like take a moment, and then I get back.
That's an intense reaction.
Yeah.
But I think that's the one knock is that they had already relieved a bit of tension prior to the bed.
but it was accidental.
Yes.
tension.
But no, the story seemed great. I like I think what I liked about this one, because this one also had multiple like, I need to leave. Like, is similar to the fanfic, but I I think it was lessened by the fact that it was only one of them, while the other person in the story,
It's like, I'm here.
While Emma was like, no, we're good, dude. Like, this is what I want. We're good.
Yeah. And I think it was lessened by the fact that he would it was a 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing.
Yes.
Which I like better than we do something and then I start back at the beginning.
Exactly, yeah. It was
no. You gotta keep having progress.
Yeah, exactly. I remember what I was gonna say. I noticed you have either been stumbling upon or just leaning towards stories that are like a series. At least
it does.
It's just so funny.
A lot of Kindle Unlimiteds end up being
sense.
that though, and because it's like you can read it as a standalone, and then once you see that, I don't think anything else of it. I'm like, oh, da 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 da.
I just thought it was interesting because I get like that. There's so many within the Kindle Unlimited realm. I didn't know that.
It's also very easy. Before I even knew that it was a series, the language that she uses with the couple that was getting married, I was like, oh, that's clearly a book.
Oh.
Like, that is clearly a book. Like, maybe it's just because I've read so many of them.
That would make sense.
That I'm like, I can tell that the history that you're implanting in this book of this couple that is not the main focus, you've gone into it in detail somewhere else.
I love that. Okay.
So, based on our 2 books,
what would
give us ratings for both of them.
5 out of 5 raccoons.
Out of 5 raccoons and trash cans.
It's only based on how well it, I think, embodies the trope. I think Jess's is, I'm going to say it's a 4 out of 5. I'm only knocking it because there were, in fact, more beds. So the literal interpretation of one bed did not happen. But it was like the perfect thing of like the bed enabled the release of the sexual tension. So the only reason I'm not doing 5, it's more like a 4.5, is the fact that it actually wasn't one bed.
I will accept that, but
Thank you.
I have
it's not up for debate.
I do have thoughts.
Absolutely. Again, I think that the actual...
It's not up for debate.
Yeah, I think the actual thing of them being in the bed together is exactly what you'd imagine.
Right.
I mean, it was emotionally driven as opposed to like the physical presentation of one bed.
Right.
But honestly, it was perfect. And then I think this one, I'm going to say 3, only because they had a literal sexual encounter before the bed.
But the bed is what spurred it on.
You know what? Okay, I'm gonna say 4. I'm also gonna say 4 because it's very similar to this one, where like the situation in this one was very only one bed. Like you get to the end and where are we going to sleep? But the emotional buildup of it was lessened slightly by the nip.
By the slight release.
What did you call it? The nip.
I said breast play. Oh,
You said nip something.
Nipping out in the pool.
Yeah, the nipping out in the pool. I think it was lessened slightly by that.
I really enjoy giving them titles.
I love the bungalow bang was fantastic.
Bungalow bang.
So yeah, I'm actually gonna say both are gonna be a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Yay! What about what have you written down today?
Yes.
I accidentally wrote on my own elbow, so that's one of them.
Fair.
So I've got sports, holidays, Taylor Swift, forced proximity, Fix It AU, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards, recent breakup, and mistaken identity. We've been talking a lot about hockey, so we could either do hockey or mistaken identity. I know what Emily wants.
It's up to Jess because I could do either one and I'd be fine with it.
Let's do hockey, but I cannot guarantee that it will be any sort of hockey RPF on my end.
That is fair.
Well, that's fine. All right, so next week it's going to be hockey.
Hockey romance.
You guys, I'm so excited. It's
a
I've
little
been
gift
waiting
for Emily.
for this. Oh, what am I going to pick? Oh my God, I've read so many. I'm so excited.
Emily.
Yeah?
Emily, what are you reading?
Anyways, I'm reading. Okay, I'm not embarrassed, but I'm reading something called Fairy Dale, a dark gothic fantasy romance by Veronica Lancet. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I'm going to finish it.
Okay.
There's a lot happening. I'll include these words: witchcraft,
Great.
past lives, 1950s, 1800s, blonde. Demon ?
I'm into it already.
Tail play. And then there's also like multiple parts. There's like a book, and now I've gotten to the end. I was like, okay, here we're at the end. A whole other fucking story just happened.
Oh my God.
What is going on? I do want to finish it. I'm mad, but that's what I'm reading.
Okay.
Sean,
Yeah.
what are you reading?
I'm currently not reading anything. I
never met.
No. But I was gonna say I have started a rewatch of Gilmore Girls, and it's my first like full rewatch since maybe high school, because I feel like I watched it so many times in like middle school and high school that I just started picking the episodes I like.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time in years that I've done like a full watch through, and I've forgotten how much I love the first season.
Yeah.
So I've been having a really fun time with that. It's like, if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, you know that it's just like a warm hug in the autumn times. So that's what I've been doing.
Nice. And hey, Jess,
Hey, Emily.
what are you reading?
So I'm not currently reading anything, but I am between two fics that I found while I was looking for the one that I did for this episode. One is Manifest, and it's a classic Sherlock Holmes, John Watson, where the thing is that John finds Sherlock's porn. And this discovery shifts the dynamic of their relationship in some way.
Absolutely.
So I'm between that one, because it has been a very long time since I read a good old-fashioned Sherlock fanfiction. And the other one is another pairing that I haven't read in a while, but is an old favorite of mine, which is James Bond and Q.
Oh, I always forget that you're a James Bond fan, so that like took me totally by surprise.
And like the new versions.
Yeah, with
Q.
the skinny nerdy Q.
The skinny nerdy Q, which is like
Not old John Cleese Q.
which is like a type for me.
Yes.
He's got glasses and floofy hair.
100% your type.
You mean like your husband? Yes.
Yes. So it's basically, it's called Negotiable. I can't tell a lot about it from the summary, which is why I will probably read this one, because it's a mystery to me. But the summary is, the shitty thing was that Q had a boyfriend at the time, a ravishing blonde public school boy wank fantasy of an actual boyfriend. But then Bond came along. And the tags are injury recovery, minor character death, age difference, bisexuality, tea, office romance, gadgets, glasses, public school, and drinking. And so I was like, this is intriguing, and I kind of want to know where this goes. So
Interesting.
I will be
I added
reading
a
one
couple
of
from that
those.
list.
Yeah.
What did you add?
Office romance.
Oh,
yeah.
love an
That's
office
a favorite
romance.
of mine too.
Yeah, so that
Love
may be.
an
Well,
office
Sean, you
romance.
only have a few more episodes
I
left.
know.
So you gotta
Actually,
really.
yes.
It's the last
So you
one,
got
and then we're
two
gonna
more.
do 9. So you have 2 more.
Oh, okay, go. So I think I might want to end on office romance, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you still want to do
Hockey.
Hockey as your
I don't
next
want
one?
to take it away from
No,
you. You were
I,
so
No.
I
excited.
read. It doesn't matter to me. I'm happy doing whatever.
I kind of want to do an office romance.
You want to do office romance instead?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I also love.
I love an office.
I love
Okay.
a boss.
Let's do that. I
So
feel
then
like
I
I
might
feel
have
like
just
more
alluded to
room
the
play.
fic that I'll be doing next time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
We'll
there's
see.
more room to play.
John.
I think it'll be fun.
Okay, John and Sherlock.
I mean, that's an office.
their
so.
office is their home.
No, Bond and Q.
Oh, I got it. I got
was-
it.
I was
Yeah.
fucking with you. All right. So
All right.
office romance is now the next.
I'm sorry
one.
to tease anyone who was like super pumped for hockey.
It's okay. If you
We'll
want to
get
know
to
more
it.
about hockey stuff, just DM me and I'll tell you.
If you want to know more about hockey stuff, keep listening for, many moons.
Yeah, that
for
might
when
come
we
back.
eventually do get to it.
There's
Yeah.
definitely gonna. Maybe there'll be a hockey part 2. Maybe there'll be a
knows?
hockey part 3.
Maybe there'll be an episode of his Emily talking hockey.
Talking.
Talking
Welcome
hockey.
back to Talking Hockey. All right. Well, hey, we did it.
Yay!
Do you want to make another drink?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
When correctly viewed, everything is lewd. I could tell you things about Peter Pan and the Wizard of Oz. There's a dirty old man.